Hello, everybody, and welcome to One America's Candid Conversations. Today's episode is a very special episode of Candid Conversations because this week is Halloween and because our nation has been feeling so much stress lately. We thought it would be really fun to bring you a little bit more of a lighthearted episode. So today on Candid Conversations, we have the One America staff. As you'll notice, we are all decked out in Halloween costumes for you. I will preface this episode with we are running an internal contest for our Halloween costumes. So if you think that anyone on the One America staff has just hit it out of the park, maybe Orange October hit it out of the park today, and you would like to vote for them for the best One America costume, please do drop their name in the comments for us. If you do not drop names in the comments, then I will declare myself the winner of this episode. So go ahead and vote for your favorite friends, coworkers, family members, and One America staff members. So with no further ado, this episode is the spooky stories of polarization. We all know that toxic polarization is a very serious issue in our country right now. And sometimes trying to figure out why we are so divided can be difficult. But we've got some really fun, scary stories for you today to help explain the science behind polarization, to better understand why it is that we behave the way we do, and a little bit about what you can do without it. So without further ado, let's get into these very spooky and scary stories of polarization. Up first, we have Chandra, the pandemic hero, who would like to share her scary story.
Person. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there existed in this very neighborhood the most terrifying thing to Halloween night: a pack of roving teenagers. These teenagers would wander the streets, scaring small children and throwing eggs and toilet paper at houses. Mostly their antics were harmless, but on this particular Halloween night, they decided to target the old Grandview mansion. Grandview had been abandoned since the Great Depression and had been inhabited by nothing but ghosts ever since. Or so they thought. The teens decided to split up and surround the house. "You go around back," said the oldest boy, "and wait for my signal." Out front, two boys crept under the front windows and waited, huddled in the dark, listening to a creak, creak, creak coming from inside. The creak got louder and louder. The boys froze, staring at each other in the dark until the oldest boy's phone rang. "Hello," he whispered. "Hello?" came the voice on the other end of the line. I'm calling from inside the house." The boy recognized his friend from the backyard. He must have entered through an open window. "There's someone in here. Get him!" cried the older boy. But before he could jump out from under the windows, his companion stopped and jumped in front of him. "No," he shouted, "no, I won't let you do this. I'm tired of throwing eggs and stealing candy and throwing toilet paper. This has to stop," he said. And just then they realized there was a little old lady standing on the front porch with a bowl of candy. "Now, what are you boys supposed to be dressed up as?" she said. "Finally, some trick-or-treaters." And she offered them some candy. The end.
Whew. That story was so scary. I am glad that young man was able to stop everyone. So, the science concept that you just described is an in group moderate. So, an in group moderate are people who stand up against the worst impulses of their own side. We all need in group moderates right now to stand up in our society. So, thank you, Chandra, for sharing that wonderful, terrifying story. So up next, unless anybody has anything to add about in-group moderates. No. Okay, wonderful. Well, that's good because I'm very excited to get to this next story. It's going to be amazing. So everybody tune in for Andy's Orange October story.
I have to follow that. That was so good. I can't beat that.
That's my theater degree at work.
Yeah, I have to go after the theater major / professional theater person. Not fair. I just want to start, first of all, quickly with a message to our political leaders, President Trump, Vice President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, Leader McConnell. Stop taking yourself so seriously. Put on a costume, get on StreamYard, and tell spooky stories to the children of America. We would all appreciate it. And I think we'd all be better served by that. I want to tell you about a dark and stormy night. The year is 2057. I, Orange October, am a grandfather speaking to my grandson, who is just 7 years old. And he is asking me about the year 2020. And I tell him it was difficult. We had a pandemic. We had a very divisive election. We had all sorts of things happen. But one of the things that was the spookiest was that the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series. And he said, "No, Grandpa, no, that can't be." And I said, "Yes, we Giants fans, we wear orange and black. This makes us good. The Giants are good. The Dodgers are bad. If the Dodgers win the World Series, it's bad." And that year, despite all the attempts to stop these monsters, they won everything and they got a trophy. And he says, "But Grandpa, why are they bad?" And I said, "Well, because they're the Dodgers." And he said, "Yeah, but what's bad about the Dodgers?" And I said, "Because they wear blue, you know they're the Dodgers, and blue is bad and Dodgers is bad." And he said, "But what's bad about wearing blue?" And I said, "The Dodgers wear blue. That's what's bad about it." And that's when he gave up on me and decided to go play with his toys or something like that. But it was very spooky to him to know that his grandfather had spent most of his life obsessing over which color jersey baseball team won a championship. And that is my story of Orange October.
That is a terrifying story. I don't know anything about baseball, but I think it's terrifying when I am required to watch it. So thank you for sharing this story with us today. So the situation you described, Andy, is toxic polarization, which is what One America is all about stopping. Polarization becomes toxic when it stops being a disagreement about issues, as if whether or not watching baseball is a good thing to do, and becomes an us versus them battle over identity. Thank you, Andy, very much for sharing.
I'll be here all week.
Wonderful, wonderful. So our next scary story comes from another staff member who tells wonderful, scary stories. You do not want to tune away yet. Is Ryan. Ryan, you are up, Senor Sugar Stickle.
Thank you. So every October 31st, two tribes pay homage to their ancestors who settled in the town of Spookyville centuries ago. There was a huge internecine war and the tribe split in two, the Who tribe and the Boo tribe. The town of Spookyville has been segregated ever since, with the Who tribe living in the Bountiful Valley and the Boo tribe occupying the far less bountiful hillsides. Merlin of the Boo tribe is peeking through the bushes as the Who tribe is gathering their offerings to their ancestors, namely rare, juicy fruits and vegetables that no one in his tribe had ever tasted. Little does he know how these fruits and vegetables are very similar to the other tribe. Merlin seeds at their bounty, wishing his tribe had such offerings to give their ancestors. Days later, Xander of the Who tribe spies on the Boo tribe making their ceremonial outfits. Already, he knows that they will be of inferior quality and chuckles at the thought of the poorer Boo tribe wearing their scraps. He hadn't seen their final product, which is very similar to what his own tribe wears, but made of different materials and colors. Days later, the boys randomly encounter each other in an area where the two sides of town meet. Immediately, they start hurling insults at each other. Merlin of the Boo tribe spots a fruit in Xander's basket that he's never seen before and asks what it is. Merlin replies that it's a skeleton apple for their ancestors. Xander replies that skeleton apples are red, not green. They argue and disagree over this. And days later, Xander finds his enemy putting the final touches on his ceremonial outfit, the cadaver cardigan made of prized goat flesh. Merlin notes the similarities between his corpse cardigan and his tribe's carcass coats made from the sheepskin. Slowly, the boys come to realize that they use the same different varieties of the same fruits and vegetables and very similar materials for their ceremonial outfits. They share this with their families, and the families laugh, stating that the poorer Boos and the rich Whos are nothing alike. The boys devise a plan at the night of the ceremony to have the two tribes cross paths and to finally see what the boys had discovered about the two tribes days earlier. Astonished, the tribes find out that they have small differences in how they pay homage to their ancestors. While they did not totally reconcile their centuries-long feud, the tribes gained a better understanding of each other, and the figurative walls that they built up slowly came crumbling down in subsequent years. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Ryan. Thank you. I was very worried that those tribes were going to end up different at the end. So what you've described is false polarization. And the truth is we often have more in common than we think. Your two tribes had very much more in common than they previously thought. Wonderful. We are just having so much fun here with these stories, but we are moving very quickly through them. And One America staff, at this point in time, I would like you again to ask for your friends and family to vote for you for your costumes. You will have 10 seconds each to explain why you should win the costume contest, because everyone knows I'm running this meeting because I am the best. I'm the best. So if you do not get votes, I will win. So I will give you 10 seconds to get votes yourself. The Rock and a Turtleneck, would you like to start?
Thank you, Moira. I mean, that accent is so totally unplaceable, but spot on, spot on. Maybe you guys have seen this meme or this picture of The Rock. It's quite humorous, and I'm gonna have to show you my full ensemble so that you can see it and really appreciate it, because The Rock is not only wearing a turtleneck, he's also wearing a fanny pack. So let me show you guys how accurate my outfit is, okay? It's very 90s, okay? All right, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you Google it. It's accurate. Make sure that you vote for me because you guys taste, I think that's the saying, what The Rock is cooking or something like that. So
Thank you, The Rock. And now, Pandemic Hero, why should you win this contest?
Well, we've all been suffering a lot during this pandemic in our isolation, and especially any of us who are parents like me. We've been struggling with what to do with our kids. Do we do virtual school? Do we do in-person school? And I don't know about your school district, but now mine is planning to do virtual and in-person at the same time. So all the teachers who are about to brave virtual and in-person concurrent school, to me, they're a pandemic hero. So please vote for me, pandemic hero. And to all the teachers out there, thank you so much. All the administrators, I know this is a tough time. You got this and you're awesome. Thank you for all you
Very
do.
beautifully.
Pandering.
And I am pandering for votes. Vote for me, pandemic hero.
It was so beautifully heartfelt, though. I don't know how you argue with that. So up next, Lady Liberty. Why should we vote for you?
Why should you vote for me? I hope I'm not frozen, but I will tell you now. Because you may or may not know that on the Statue of Liberty, on Lady Liberty, is a very important quote by the poet Emma Lazarus. And it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." So if you care about this country being a country where the poor and the huddled masses can be free, then you should vote for me.
Oh, the patriotic vote. That's very powerful, Lady Liberty. All right, Orange October, you have 10 seconds to plead your case.
I'm actually not wearing a costume. I wear this every Friday to work. So, do what you got to do, voter.
And finally, Senor Sugar Skull, why should we vote for you?
I feel like you should vote for me because I created a whole mood here. Look at these sugar skulls stacked for your pleasure. They're great. It's definitely my second home, Mexico. Shout out Mexico. It's pretty scary and spooky. The spookiest of all of the costumes or ambiances. So I think you should vote for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And viewers at home, we do have more staff members who did not fit on this screen. I did not invite them here today, but I will share pictures with you of their costumes in the comments. So you are welcome to vote for many of our other wonderful staff members in the comments. And if you would like them to win, you can do that. Now, back to our program after that brief intermission. Next up, we have a wonderful, wonderful scary story from Rabbi Rachel, Lady Liberty down here. Rachel, take it away.
Long ago, in a faraway place, there were two small towns located right next to each other. People from near and far knew of these towns because of their incredible apple orchards. People traveled from far and wide to taste these sweet, juicy apples. Most everything about these towns was the same, except for one major difference. In one town, everyone was Jewish, and in the other town, everyone was not. And as was often the case, the non-Jews treated the Jews very badly. They mocked them, stole from them, and sometimes even hurt and killed them. A great and wise rabbi led the Jewish town, and she knew her people needed help. So one day she went out to the mud and formed a golem, a magical, mystical creature. And she inscribed the word emet, truth, on its head, and instructed this golem, this magical creature made from dust and mud, to protect the Jews of her town from their hateful neighbors. Anytime a non-Jew from the town next door came to insult or injure a Jew, the golem screamed, scaring him or her away. He would roar and stomp his legs until it shook the ground beneath him. And this golem, this mystical creature, grew in strength with every passing day and through each encounter. Each time he protected the Jews, he became more and more powerful. One day, the golem noticed a small girl picking apples from the apple orchard. At first, she only picked apples from her town side of the orchard, but slowly she began to pick apples from the Jewish town side. The golem thought to himself, "This girl thinks she can steal from us?" So he followed her, snuck up behind her, and gave her such a fright that she screamed all the way home. The young girl was confused. She didn't understand why the golem approached her all of a sudden. All had been fine from picking apples just moments before. She was a brave little girl who wanted to help her family, so she kept coming back to the orchard, each time coming face to face with the golem. From afar, the rabbi had been watching. She too believed that the little girl from the other town had been instructed to steal from the Jews, and so she did not intervene when the golem scared her away. But one day, as the sun set and Sabbath was about to begin, the little girl approached the apple orchard. This time she did not pick any apples, but held out something wrapped in a towel. As she spotted the golem, slowly him in her hands. The golem took the object and put his nose to the top. The little girl had made him a beautiful and delicious apple pie. The rabbi stepped out from some bushes and said, "What are you up to, little one? Each day you come here and steal apples, and now you come here with the gift of pie?" The little girl looked perplexed. "Stealing apples? I didn't know that some apples were yours and that some were ours. I've had no idea why your golem hates me so much, why he hates everyone in my town so much. And so I thought that if I shared the apples and made him a pie, maybe he would like me and want to be my friend." That moment, the rabbi realized that the little girl had never come to harm the Jews. She couldn't know what nobody had told her. And so the rabbi told the golem that the little girl was good and kind, and that he should let her pick apples from either side of the orchard. And so she did, bringing an apple pie with her at the end of each week and sitting down with the golem to eat it side by side.
That was a wonderful, scary story. Thank you for sharing it. What you have described is very commonly happening in our toxic polarization world. You've described motive misattribution, and that means that we believe that people on our side are motivated by love, and people on the other side are motivated by hate. And we often don't know the true motivations of a person until we get to know them better and talk to them about it. So thank you very much for describing that situation and sharing your spooky story. Andy, please.
The one exception is that Dodger fans are motivated by hate.
Perhaps. Or maybe you too have fallen victim to toxic polarization, Andy. Now, we have one final story for you today. This story is the best story. I believe it is the best story because we always save the best story for the last story. So, do not tune away yet. We have to listen to The Rock share a spooky story of polarization.
Specifically, The Rock in a turtleneck, just so you guys know. Oh, and I want to correct myself. It's, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? So just want to throw that out there for the votes, you know. Anyway, I'm going to tell you guys a story I heard a few years ago about some kids from a town not too far from where I grew up. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, some teenagers were walking along a harbor on Halloween night, and they noticed a light coming from one of the boats that were docked there. Being curious, of course, they're teenagers, they went to go check it out. Not me, though. I probably wouldn't do that. Anyway, as they got closer, they realized that this particular boat looked a little bit different from the rest in a very peculiar way. It was round, and it kind of resembled what most people would think a flying saucer would look like, but you know, the kind that you see in movies. None of us have seen them in real life. The boys thought maybe it was a decoration or a prop that was used for the town's harvest festival earlier, so they went to check it out. They went to get a closer look. One of the boys went to see if the ship's latch would actually open up. When he pulled on the handle, nothing. Instead, a beacon of light shot through the top of the ship that could be seen for miles. All of a sudden, tiny lights could be seen in the sky. Those lights seemed to come closer and closer and get brighter and brighter with each passing second. Eventually, the lights came so close and they were so bright that the boys lost their vision for a moment. They couldn't see anything at all. When they were able to see again, 2 bald people appeared before them. or at least they looked like people. I don't know. They told the boys that they had been studying planet Earth. They had been watching us. And they noticed that Earth's inhabitants had hair on their heads. They didn't like that because their species didn't grow hair. They didn't understand its purpose or why anyone would keep these furry, untamable strands on their head when they could just be bald because bald is better. The leader from the unknown planet decided that based on this very subtle yet noticeable difference between the two species, that they hated Earthlings and that they must be destroyed. But before they could wipe out the entire planet, one of the boys grabbed the leader's hand and he said, "Wait, I know we're different. We have hair on our heads, and that's difficult to understand. But look at all the ways that we're alike. Your hands, they look just like mine." The leader stopped and looked down at their hands, which did look quite similar, he had to admit. He then noticed more similarities between them. Their noses were similar. They had kneecaps, toes, feet. They were actually more alike than they were different. The leader decided to spare Earth thanks to the actions of that brave young boy that night. Legend has it that those aliens, or I'm sorry, maybe I should say those people, they plant a flying saucer in the harbor every Halloween night, just waiting for someone else to trigger it. I can't say what they'll do when they came back, but we can always hope for the best. Thank you.
That was a fantastic story with a happy ending. I was very worried for a little while. So this story brings us full circle around back to toxic polarization. Thank you, Anna. Again, toxic polarization, folks, or false polarization, is that we have more in common than we think. And sometimes that becomes very toxic, and then we think we must destroy each other, which is what we do not want to happen. Now, really quickly, wig change, got to. Okay, now we're ready for the closing. Thank you all very much for joining us on this special edition of Candid Conversations. As we go into this weekend, we hope that you find joy with your families and with your friends and with your community for the Halloween evening. And we hope as we move into this following week, we take the time to center ourselves and ground ourselves in the reality of what is happening around us. Look to your local communities, look to your neighbors, to your friends, to your colleagues, to your family, and try and see the hope and the joy of where we're at as a nation right now. Good luck with your votes if you're casting them this weekend. And if you would like to learn more about how to bring our country together and understand better why we are divided and what you can do about it, join us online. We are at theoneamericamovement.org. You can also learn more about our efforts to bring our country together and rebuild throughout this pandemic and this hard period of time at coronarebuild.org. And again, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and everywhere else. And finally, please do cast your vote for your favorite costume that you saw today, your favorite story. There is indeed a fantastic staff prize that is in the lurch, so you have throughout this weekend to cast that vote. Thank you all for joining us.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.